This is my rules and regulations of netball. Scoring. To score within netball, you get 1 point by getting the ball in the net at the end of the three of the third quarter that makes up the pitch. So the way you score is by shooting. Now in netball, this is where one would throw the ball with the intention to get it in the hoop to score a point. You would perform this by throwing the ball towards the hoop and getting it in. This would be done within the last third, which is the third you are attacking. The score is tallied throughout the game by the scorer who sits to the sideline keeping track of points scored. Timing. Netball runs for approximately 1 hour, but broken up between 4 quarters of 15 minutes. Also adding to the time, there are short breaks between each quarters. These are 3 minutes long, but at the half-time stage there is a 5-minute break. So therefore you get an extra couple minutes rest. When the breaks are over and each team reconciles together in their starting positions, they know that the time is up, and as the referee blows their whistle to signify this. Referees. Within netball, there is 2 match officials. These include an umpire, half of the court, and the other umpire, the other half of the court. These umpires have to, so there isn't a mistake between the players or allow for any confusion. So therefore, they wear different clothing, and umpires' duty is to scan the playing area, so the court, and make sure it is safe, so there isn't anything which could potentially cause disruption or injury. Another one of their duties is to also check if the goal posts are safe and complying to the rules. Their last responsibility is to see if the players are wearing no jewellery whatsoever, as this could cause harm to you or another player. So this is done to prevent this from happening. If so, then the umpire would just ask them to remove it. Players. A netball team is made up of 7 players, of which have all different positions on the court. A netball team also consists of substitutes, but the minimum requirements made by the officials state that you must have at least 2 extra players. This can be in case of injury or other issues. There is a major factor that there has to be a minimum of 5 players allowed on the court, but a maximum of 7. There has to be a minimum of 5 players because the game would not work, and also a key rule being one of the players on the court must play the centre position, otherwise the game play will not start. Ball out of play. If the ball has gone out of play of the court, then the last person to have touched it means that they lose possession of the ball, and therefore signifies that the other team take control of the ball. The team now has possession and will take a throw-in from the sideline to start play again. The referee would then blow their whistle and say what the team has possession and say sideline ball whilst pointing in where the referee wants the sideline to be taken from. Okay, now fouls. These consist of footwork. So for footwork, there is where a player has possession of the ball and they move their feet with the ball in their hand. This can also be caused by delayed takeoff, where they don't move at a constant pace. They pause and then take off. Obstruction can be seen. This is where there are two players, one has possession of the ball and the other player is marking. The one that is marking is too close to the player with the ball, meaning the player doesn't have a chance to throw the ball to a player on their team. Contact. This is where there is physical contact between the two players of opposite teams. An example is where one player will go to get the ball and the other would make physical contact or go into them. This would mean there is a penalty pass, and the individual that caused this has to stand next to the player whilst they take a pass, so it's essentially taking a player out of the game. Contact, again, this is like physical contact between players from opposite teams. This could be where two people go for a ball and one would get the ball and the other would... Sorry, that was contact. And obstruction is where there are two players and one has possession of the ball and the other is marking them. The one that is marking them is too close to the player with the ball, meaning the player doesn't have a chance to throw the ball to a player on their team. So from this, a free pass will be given, as they are not at least a metre away. An offside could be where, as there are different positions within netball, this can be where a player goes out of their zone, which they are not allocated to. This will mean that the other team will get possession of the ball, and then they can either play from there or play a sideline ball, and the referee would make this decision. A held ball is quite simple. In netball, you have 3 seconds on the ball, and then you must pass it off. If it's held for any longer, then this will be awarded a foul, and the referee will signify that the other team needs it's a turnover and the other team wins the ball. And then lastly, like in football, if you was to make a handball, then the other team would get possession. But in this case, if you kick it, then the other team get the ball, and you would potentially get a warning from the referee. Okay, so player area and size. A netball court is divided into 3 thirds, the 2 ends and the middle. There is also as seen, 2 Ds. You got one here and one here, which are at each end of the court. Within each end of the D, there's a hoop at each, and that is how you score, by throwing the ball into the attacking end hoop. There is also a centre circle within the middle, and this is how you will start a netball match. The netball court is 30.5 metres by 15.25 metres. The court flooring is normally wooden, but it needs to be a material that is safe, and you can run on it. Most netball courts are indoors. However, you can get basic netball courts outdoors, and this can be played outdoors as well, as providing there is a court. You would normally see this at places like schools. Okay, so equipment. The equipment that is needed is very minimum. What's included is a netball along with a court to play on, goal posts, a sheet to score, and a stopwatch for timing the game. Okay, so let's look at 3 scenarios. Okay, so scenario 1 is about contact. So earlier on we looked at contact and what would happen, but we're going to look at it in more detail. So there could be 2 players that are going for the same ball, and if one of the players makes contact with the other player, then not only is the player going to potentially be hurt or fall over, or pushed around, but there's also going to be a foul made. So if this was to happen, the player that bumped into the other player would have to stand next to that player now whilst she takes a free pass. This would happen because it is now taking that player out of the game for that duration of the pass. It doesn't go any further than this because it is quite often to happen as you are moving around and trying to win possession of the ball. So this is where the player doesn't have their opposition marking them, meaning that they have an advantage to get the ball to another player on their team, and from this it will decrease the risk of interception. Our next scenario is going to be the centre pass. This always happens after every quarter and after every point is scored, so that the ball can be started within the game. This will alternate between the 2 teams every time a goal is scored. The player who is taking the centre will stand outside the centre marker, and when the umpire or referee decides that the play should begin, they will step into the circle to make their pass. Again, if the ball is held and it's not released within 3 seconds, then the other team will take the ball. Our last scenario is going to be the shooting. So if there is a player within the D and wants to shoot, again, just like having a held ball, you can only have that ball for a maximum of 3 seconds before you have to release it, whether this is a pass or a shot. So therefore, you need to get the ball in the hoop, as we said before, to score 1 point. A defender is allowed to try and get possession of the ball. However, they must stand at least a metre away, as said before. If not, then there will be a foul awarded. If the player misses, the defender can then try and get the ball as well as the attacker. However, if the shooter misses and it doesn't even touch a post